the financial system is much more stable than it used to be. And too big to fail actually is much less likely. Because if somebody engages in reckless practices, we can now unwind them without them bringing down the entire system. Moderator Smith: so how come we don't know it then? President Obama: well, first of all, that's not a story that is interesting to people. What's more interesting is a cynical view that terrible things happened and nothing got changed. And that's how it gets reported both in popular culture as well as in the media. But the second thing that's happened is, where it's not where we still have work to do in. This space, the main reason we have work to do in this space is because this Congress has prevented oversight agencies like the FCC and the CFTC from having enough staff and resources to be able to enforce as well as they could some of the laws and the rules that are put in place. And so we go back to the need for civic engagement. We cannot solve the problems in government, and we cannot solve the problems that we face collectively as a society unless we, the people, are paying attention. And in an age in which people are getting information through digital platforms, through the internet, where people's attention spans have shrunk, it is critical that all of you who are shaping this environment are spending time thinking about how are we getting people, how are we getting citizens engaged. And you, yourselves have to be engaged and spend some time thinking about it. It doesn't mean you have to do it full time. It doesn't mean that you have to run for office yourself. But it does mean that whatever your field is, there is a way right now for you to engage. And participate to take this democracy back in ways that we have not seen in a very long time. Moderator Smith, what you're preaching, Mr. President, again nobody will take issue with the idea of more civic engagement in a digital age. But the question is whether everybody, all of us in this country, are in the same digital age, right? You're in a state that is seeing rapid changes in its population. We'll soon be Hispanic majority. Well, in this state, as in a lot of other states. The digital divide, access to Wi-Fi, access to devices, continues to be an enormous problem. %50 of adults in Hispanic households have no access to internet at home. %54 of African Americans have access, but 46% do not. Many more white households have access to the internet than do non-white households. We know that we have this massive digital divide in this country, in Texas, and elsewhere. Shouldn't the government, before we start providing all the civic engagement through the digital space, make sure that everybody is in the digital space first? President Obama, which is, actually, exactly what we've been trying to do over the last several years. When we passed the Recovery Act, the stimulus that was very controversial at the time, and that continues to be criticized by the other party. Despite the fact that unemployment is now below 5% and we avoided a Great Depression. But embedded in that was a massive investment in making sure that communities that had been left out of broadband and Wi-Fi were reached. And we have made enormous progress in extending more and more internet. Access high-speed internet access to communities all across the country. A second example, we set up something called Connected, where our goal, and we're on track. To meet this by 2018 is that 99% of classrooms have access to high-speed wireless. And the way we've done that, in part, is through federal spending. But what we've also done is we've partnered with an array of companies. Moderator Smith, right, private industries. President Obama, private industry has really stepped up. And so part of the task, you're right, that we've got to make sure that given the power of this space, everybody is plugged in. But one of the great tricks to all this is making sure that whatever government is doing is then supplemented with and enhanced by a private sector and nonprofit sector that are ready to step up. And it's not just, by the way, getting a line in or Wi-Fi there. It's also training. Teachers. We've set up something called, well, Open Book. Somebody out here. Audience member, Open eBooks. President Obama, there you go, Open eBooks. Moderator Smith, Mr. President, very good, it's important to have wired classrooms. But part of the problem is that 70% of homework assignments by one measure, given by teachers, require some internet access. So it's one thing to wire classrooms, the problem is homes. There was a story in the New York Times about a month ago that had a couple of kids from McAllen. A brother and sister, standing outside their school building into the wee hours of the night having to do their homework on their phones. Using the Wi-Fi from the school after hours because they had no Wi-Fi at home. This is 2016. It just seems crazy. President Obama, which is why we've set up something called Opportunity Networks that is going to go into public housing. Rural communities. Low-income communities to make sure that access is available precisely so those young people can do the work. Moderator Smith, you're going to try to solve this problem? President Obama, I am trying to solve every problem. But here Moderator Smith, you've got to have a goal, I understand. President Obama, but here's the point that I want to make. These are solvable problems, but it's not a matter of us passively waiting for somebody else to solve it. And that's part of the mindset that I'm trying to break. I tried to break it back in 2007, 2008, when I ran for this office. As you will recall, the slogan was not yes, I can, it was yes, we can. And we could sit here and you could list out an array of problems, inequities that have to be addressed. What I'm saying is, number one, government actually works better in so many areas than we. Give it credit for because we tend to focus on those areas where it's not working as well. Number 2, part of the reason that government doesn't always appear to provide. A satisfactory solution is because government has to take on the hardest problems. The private sector doesn't have to figure out how to educate the poorest kids. The private sector doesn't have to figure out how to protect us from a terrorist cell. If you have aging, sick veterans, the private sector may not serve them as well. Or to figure out how do we get homeless off the streets. So the toughest problems are government problems. And finding solutions to those things can take time. And so you're never going to get 100% satisfaction the way you might get that perfect cup of coffee. The perfect latte, or the lowest price on your ticket to Cancun, because these are harder problems. But the third point that I'm trying to make here is that if we can reconceive of our government, so that the interactions and the interplay between private sector, non-profits, and government are opened up, and we use technology, data, social media in order to join forces around problems. Then there's no problem that we face in this country that is not soluble. And the key is to have incredible talent, as is gathered here, to focus on it. It's not enough just to focus on what's the cool next thing. Part of what we have to do is to figure out how do we use and harness the cool next thing to make sure that everybody in this country has opportunity. And to make sure that we're dealing with our environment in an effective way. Moderator Smith, I want to use and harness the time we have. We've got 10 minutes left. We started a little late. President Obama, nice segue. That was good. Moderator Smith, thank you. I appreciate it. Took the baton here, Mr. President. President Obama, it was good. It was good. Moderator Smith, we asked for questions from regular folks through the Texas Tribune website. We've got a few of those. And I want to ask you about a couple of those. Some are related to the topics we've been talking about, and some are not. I'm going to go quickly so that we use the time we have. A bunch of people wanted me to ask you about Apple and the situation with Apple and the FBI. Some in the tech community. The question I want to ask you is, putting aside the specifics of this specific case. The legal fight between the company and the FBI, there are big questions around the idea of how you balance the need for law enforcement to conduct investigations and the needs of citizens to protect their privacy. This is the old privacy versus security debate. Mr. President. Where do you come down on the privacy versus security debate? President Obama, well, first of all, I can't comment on the specific case. So let's set that aside.